Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Junk Prototype, episode 63, recording on Thursday, May 27th. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name's Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about Sony's State of Play today, featuring Horizon Forbidden West. We're going to get into the new Unreal Engine playable project that was showcased earlier in the week. And we'll talk a bit about what we played, including Biomutant, which Sean and I have both dabbled in. I don't think you have yet, right, Hawk?
I have not.
All right, well, let's get right into it. So, State of Play today, a short one. I think it was 14 minutes of gameplay and then a gameplay breakdown for Horizon Forbidden West, one of my most anticipated games, and a sequel to probably my favorite game of all time. So, I was pretty excited about this. Sean didn't think it was coming out this year. Still no release date by the end, but it's possible. Every game Sean had as his most anticipated is probably not coming out this year.
Or at least delayed in some form.
Didn't include on his list because they're not coming out this year, are probably going to come out this year. So,
I mean, Horizon, I haven't played the first one yet, so that's part of the reason why I haven't.
You haven't played the first Horizon?
List, no, I played the tutorial twice.
You got it.
And I have not gotten into it yet. So
that's crazy. If you've finished Breath of the Wild, you must finish Horizon Zero Dawn. Anyway, I really liked the gameplay video. I certainly wasn't blown away. This is going to sound like a blatant fanboy statement, but I like that I wasn't blown away. This is going to sound like Nintendo fan rationalization. It felt like more of the same game, which I hate when games add too much or try to add a ton of new systems. Now, there is the underwater stuff, which I'm really not convinced on yet. It didn't look like that much fun. I don't really love the idea of games expanding the world underwater. I'm only into that for films, like the Avatar sequels. And there is, I think the melee combat definitely looks more interesting and reminded me a bit of the new Spider-Man on PS5, like the way it was kind of charging weapons and stuff like that. It seemed potentially influenced by that. But I did think the new animals that were featured looked pretty cool, which is my favorite thing about that game. The world, I mean, it's West Coast. It looks pretty good. Felt a bit of influence or reuse of assets from The Last of Us. I don't know if Sony's sharing that stuff, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. And
I was just going to jump in there. It feels the world does look way more alive than like there's so much more detail in the environments. There's so much more like random animals around, like little birds, and especially when when she dives into the water. Like there's so many little schools of fish
underwater.
around.
I really felt it. Like the aquatic life, that was the hot. I mean, I don't think the gameplay looks like that much fun yet. They really didn't showcase much underwater, but it looks really good. But I am still excited for this game. It made me want to go back and play the original. We'll see if that happens. But anyone else have any different thoughts or like you're out of your mind? This looked like poo. I guess one thing to mention is it is coming out on PS4. And I kind of noticed that a bit. Like it didn't look quite to the level lighting wise as like Demon Souls on PS5 or Returnal. So not that it's a huge deal to me. I'd probably play it on PS4 anyway, so I can auto pop the trophies on the PS5 version. So, hey, again, I'll chalk that up under blatant fanboy rationalization for this game. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I mean, I don't have that much to say because I didn't play the first game, but I'm curious what is new in terms of mechanics, like things like the glider, the grappling hook. Like, is that all from the first game?
Yeah, no. They kind of featured those. Yeah, that's new.
Oh, it's new. Okay,
yeah, the glider.
Cool.
Yeah, they basically after the video. I didn't like this. Like, I liked when in Ratchet and Clank, and I think The Last of Us 2 State of Play and Ghost of Tsushima, they would kind of talk about those new mechanics while they were playing, where this was like a playthrough a bunch and then talk about the mechanics after, which I found a little clumsy. I would rather they just, talk about it and explain it while they're playing. But yeah, I mean, I guess they look pretty good, the glide, and I guess the grappling hook seems the most interesting and seems, Uncharted 4 / Sekiro inspired, probably more so Sekiro. But
yeah, what was the other thing they added? That like glue gun, essentially, right? I think that was the other mechanic they added. I mean, that was the thing I was surprised at. They didn't really show any other traps other than that glue gun, which I believe, like, so when I played, I didn't use the traps very much, but I think you guys, or I guess you did, right?
Yeah, I was using the tripwires, the bombs, a couple others. Oh, I loved for the flying creatures, how you could use them on any creature and kind of anchor them to the ground and stop them in place. I love that stuff. And I agree. Like, they basically just used the bow and arrow the whole time. It looked kind of boring from that. And I'm surprised they didn't show you guys, especially for people who might be new to PS5 or really want one. And maybe like Sean didn't play the first Horizon. To me, you're missing in that video what makes that game great, which is the different ways to approach taking down the creatures. So I totally agree, Huck.
Yeah, I must say, I still think the environments, like, I kind of watching the video as we're talking about it, and the environments look incredible. The lighting, it's hard to say because, like, Demon's Souls is a darker game. Yeah, and this is like during, midday. Not, there's not like big contrast. It's like mostly just in the sun. So I thought the character models looked good. I thought the water looked good. The environments did have a ton of detail. It looked like a lot of stuff was interacting. So it definitely gave me a next gen feel in that regard. The only thing that really stood out for me kind of in the beginning, not so much near the end, is that I just started watching season 2 of Mythic Quest. So I just like heard Ashley Birch the whole time as like her character in that show, not as Aloy.
I didn't even know that, to be honest. And I'm watching Mythic Quest season 2.
Yeah, so I was like, oh no. And then there was it felt like there was a lot of like forced kind of dialogue as she was running away from those like velociraptor enemies in the beginning, like, oh, maybe over here I'll be able to get away, and like all this kind of like forced stuff. Like, why is she
totally? We are exactly on the same page. It's crazy. I did not know she was the voice of Aloy.
Yeah, Aloy. Come on, Horizon fanboy.
Aloy,
biggest Horizon fan on the planet.
But yeah, I think that pretty much sums up everything. What else was there? I mean, the elephant was cool. Like I said in the pre-show, I thought Frank would be creaming at the elephant. Like, I thought it would be lights out.
Elephant, if anything, if you want a hot take, elephant felt like Lord of the Ringsy. I feel like I've seen creatures like that before.
Sure.
The highlight in the video that they showed before with the turtle has been done a million times. I'm looking for them to, go after new animal species and mix it up a bit. If anything, I thought it was a bit derivative. The sawtooth, not sawtooth, that's an actual animal in it. The kind of velociraptor-y looking thing with the chainsaw blades for lower jaws.
Yeah, velociraptor, I would say, yeah.
Look, again, they're kind of marquee, in my opinion, cliche members of the animal kingdom that are used in everything. So I'm looking for a game like this to think outside the box. Where's the flamingo? Where's the...
and the velociraptor is very like Jurassic Park inspired too.
I want them
the real size.
Something new, not give me the stuff I've seen in a million movies already. Like, that's why I like the first one. Those huge eagles and the crocodiles looked so cool. Even the base enemy, the first enemy you encounter is like this kind of one-eyed, kind of raptor-y thing, but like it had really unique mechanics. So I'm hoping they didn't spoil the best creatures for the game, because I think they need to amp it up a little. So it's not pure fanboyism here. I'm agreeing and was going to bring up a lot of Huck's negative points to the video. And I'm so glad you brought up the audio, because we always talk about in these videos, like, and especially in this one, because it's shown as a gameplay video, is this how the game would work? And those audio cues would make no sense when you're playing. There's no way a game plays out like that with those audio cues. Like, I need to get away from them. Like, what? Like that?
Well, unless this is like, the first section of the game, could be.
I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
But it's...
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Well, it's funny, like some of those dialogue things. Like, I agree, it was a bit overkill. But playing Biomutant recently, which we're going to talk about, you start to notice when stuff like that is completely absent. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. Like, it's kind of become, I think, expected in AAA games that the main player is going to be kind of talking to themselves as they go along, or unless they have somebody with them that they can talk to.
I agree, but in the context of the video, it was completely fabricated. Like, it wasn't natural. It was like
it felt forced.
Choreographed, I guess is a better word, which is fine. A lot of gameplay demos are, but that's usually what I love about Sony's. They feel like someone's playing the game, and this is exactly how I would play the game. This one was kind of venturing out of that territory for me.
Especially, there was one part in the video. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's just as she's coming up from the water, you can see like the shadow of one of the other enemies from the previous game. It's like one of those ones with like the cannons and the tail. And you could see it on the side of the water. And I was like, oh, she's going to get fucked up when she comes out of here. And then she just pops up and goes straight. She doesn't even, like, the camera doesn't even pan over to look at what was there. So I thought that was going to be a big reveal of like an enemy coming in, and it was nothing. It was just like, I don't even know if it was that enemy. I don't know if you guys go back and look at the video, you might see it right when she's coming out of the water. You can see it kind of like it's out of the water, and you could kind of see it through. But I have maybe a couple more points. Now, did we know that it was in San Francisco before? Was that revealed?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, is the original game set in like real cities, or
I think it's in Denver, somewhere near Denver, Colorado. But anyways,
Horizon Zero Dawn fan.
Frank, where is the original?
I have no idea. Let's see if it's in here.
I thought it was Denver-ish area. But anyways, I didn't know. I also couldn't remember if we knew the location, but so I thought the Golden Gate Bridge reveal was kind of cool. When she kind of pops up and the Golden Gate Bridge is there. So I didn't know if that was already known or not. Like, obviously we knew she was heading west. So I didn't know it was going to be San Francisco though. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is I was getting a little worried. I was getting a little Last of Us 2 vibes where it stops focusing on, like in this case, it starts focusing on the machines and sort of like that narrative, and starts focusing on like the human aspects and like the interaction between the different human tribes more than like sort of like the machine aspect, kind of like how The Last of Us kind of focused away from, like the clickers and the infection, and focused on the, the different, same thing, the different tribes, of the world. So I'm a little worried they're kind of taking a lot of like Uncharted 4 inspiration, a lot of Last of Us 2, a lot of Spider-Man, just kind of like mashing it into Horizon 2.
I have to say I agree with you for the most part. I am less intrigued by fighting humans in this series, and it seemed like there was a lot of that, even though I guess I liked the bomb explosion. That was a highlight for me, when on top of the elephant, when it blew up the human-made box or whatever that they were all standing on, and that kind of exploded. That was
carriage.
Carriage. That was the showcase moment for me. But I gotta agree, I'm not into humans when it comes to video games.
Yeah, there still were a lot of dinosaurs.
Whenever possible. All right. I have nothing else to say. Anyone else? I'm still super excited for the game, but
I mean, the water stuff looked really cool to me. I do agree water mechanics in general usually suck. So, I mean,
let me use this as a perfect example, in my opinion. Uncharted 3, they always added a new aspect to aiming, right? The aiming mechanic. So in Uncharted 2, they had sequences where you were scaling a wall and you could use the cover and shoot mechanics scaling up a wall. Then in the third one, the new idea was, oh, you can take all our shooting mechanics and do them in water, which I thought was well done in Uncharted 3, but they use it very sparingly. And I think that's for a reason. Like they were not having water shootouts all the time in that game. It was used in very specific points in the game. And it looks like in this game, water is a huge feature. And to me, the reason why it's probably not in Uncharted all that much is getting in and out of water is not that much fun. You have to find a spot where you can get out. It can be frustrating, especially when you move slower in water. Maybe the grappling hook mechanic will like help you quickly get out of the water. That could help. But that's where the concerns start to come for me for like pace of action when water's included in games.
Especially if there's going to be a lot of sections with the current pushing you around like they showcased.
They did have those high pressure currents and stuff like that. So,
right. Also, I guess we didn't mention explicitly, but definitely some Breath of the Wild influence with the glider. So
you got to have it in an open world game these days.
Apparently it's mandatory.
I mean, we always talked about there's the similarities for Horizon and Breath of the Wild are so crazy for two games that like came out at the same time, had been in development for 3 or 4 years. It's crazy how similar those games are, and Horizon's better. So, I'm looking forward to this game, and it'll be out before Breath of the Wild too.
I must say, I might have to pull a Frank and replay this before it comes out, and then not want to play this one. So,
I was debating today. There's still 2 trophies, like they added trophies that were non-platinum trophies for New Game Plus and beating it on hard. I'm like, should I this is going to be a gross thought. Get ready. Should I replay it and get those on PlayStation to 100% it and then finally do the DLC? Or like I'm so close to buying a pre-built PC right now that should I just replay the whole thing for Steam achievements on Steam?
I thought you hated Steam achievements.
I did, but I'd rather get like 50 Steam achievements than 2 trophies that don't count platinum on PlayStation. Anyway, these are the ridiculous thoughts I have. Let's move on. I think we've said it all for Forbidden West. Sean, play the first game.
Okay. It's on my list.
All right. Okay. Huck was really intrigued by the Unreal playable demo segment or whatever, which I believe Unreal also released as a project you could download to see how it works. And
yeah, it's just to be specific, it's like the new Unreal Engine 5, and it's sort of an early access to the engine and to that demo that they showed.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm assuming some companies had access to Unreal Engine 5 at this point, but this was more of a public early access?
Yes.
Okay. So it looked pretty good. I actually found the video a little bit boring. I'm not going to lie. But it was a continuation of the same character and game we saw in the other Unreal 5 demo on PS5. And, I mean, they're again showcasing tech. Got a bit into MetaHuman, not much. But, I don't know, it looks pretty cool. Like, Unreal seems to be crushing it. A lot of studios are moving to it. It's extremely popular. Again, has me excited to get a new PC so I can run it and try some stuff in it, even this little playable demo, because I've not used it in a long time. So, it's undeniably very appealing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple things that are really impressive. Just the sheer quality of the assets that you can get. So I don't know if you guys watched the sort of like interview part where they were talking to the Unreal Engine guys, but they were saying to get all of those assets, they actually like took drones out to wherever the Mojave Desert or wherever they said they went, and they flew drones over top and got like high-res mega scans of the environment and basically duplicated that in the editor. which is pretty incredible that they went out and did that. And just the detail. I don't know if you've been reading at all about how this is done, but I haven't actually. But you can really zoom in to like insane levels, and it seamlessly, it's almost like the mega textures that Carmack was hyping up during Rage, right? That's basically what they're doing. They have all these mega textures for these assets, but they also have not just the textures, but they also have the geometry, which can go in and out of scale. So it also scales, and it's really incredible to see, because with that you get such better lighting. And so that when you see the sun and stuff moving, and you see the shadows and all that, it's really hard to find like little lighting artifacts. It just looks really good. And I don't know, like the world just looks so believable. It really looks incredible to me. And, this is not even, 4K image I'm looking at. It's like 1080p, if that. So I don't know. I was just really impressed. I found some of the character motion a little clunky at times in the demo. But that's, what was that? Sorry.
Don't play Biomutant.
Okay. Oh, I mean, I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna try to do a WoW tech demo, I thought maybe you'd polish up some of the stuff a bit, especially like some of the foot IK was a little kind of shifty, a little looking. But I mean, foot IK is hard to do. But I thought some of the like texture swap, palette swap of the environment with the quick fade in, fade out was impressive. That's I think they said this was running on PlayStation 5, I think. So they had the fast SSD and the compression and stuff. But it was, that sort of Ratchet and Clank style thing that everyone is, oh my God, this is not possible on anything else kind of thing. And so once we get, fast SSDs as the standard, this will just be the norm, which will be pretty impressive, that you don't have to sit around for any load times or anything like that. The fact that people can dive in and play around with this demo, that character, the like enemy with the orb head, like Mysterio, he was, I think they said like some insane number of triangles, like 20 trillion or so. Yeah, I don't know. I thought so. It was some insane number.
Those numbers mean nothing to me. Like
it's a lot.
I know it's a lot, but you could say anything, and I have no frame of reference for those numbers. I know that's embarrassing, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard
numbers.
to put. Yeah, it is hard to put it in like context, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Just really impressed. Everyone should go watch the video, see like what sort of environments specifically we'll be able to be seeing soon in these next gen titles. And, everything else looked good. The effects look good. Though some of the particle effects, especially on the smoke, I thought kind of like appeared and then disappeared a little abruptly, which I was a little disappointed in. I thought they would maybe stick around a little bit, which means maybe this demo is pushing the limit of stuff, and they had to
smoke in mirrors.
They had to kind of cut some of it out. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's really interesting, and I think the fact that they made it open to the public and it gave everyone kind of access to these assets, and people can use these assets in any Unreal Engine 5 game for anything they want is pretty awesome as well. Like Frank was saying, a lot of teams are switching, and Unreal Marketplace is very similar to the Unity Asset Store. You can buy a lot of stuff. You can get a really high quality game for relatively cheap now.
And you don't have to pay until you make $1 million. So
for the engine, yeah.
Which is like kind of how Unity got its way in, right? By being free. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it might be a game changer in the game industry.
Okay, so I had a couple random thoughts / questions. So I don't know, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about with some of this stuff. But like, first question, and I think we talked about this with the last demo we watched from this, but like, I mean, you're looking at a very impressive environment, but you've got one character or two characters. I mean, Huck, you're saying like maybe they're pushing the limit here, but like, I mean, like, do we know that this is what a game could look like with like hundreds of characters on screen potentially, if it's that kind of
They did
game?
that
Like,
in the last demo, but not with moving characters, right? It was those statues in
yeah, right.
the light bouncing, the lumen system, I think, or something like that. They talked about in the last video.
Yeah, yeah. So the lumen system is the light system, and is it nanite? That's
Yeah.
the mesh system. So they did say that that big character is made out of basically like it's a bunch of parts, and each of those parts is this. So I don't think you can animate a like rig a nanite skeleton or whatever it's called. But I think if you have like little pieces attached to that skeleton, that it still works for those. It's able to, scale them up and down in the engine. So I think if you adapt your content creation pipeline to make models in this way, I think you'll be able to get away with it. But I agree, it's not totally clear that you can get a lot of guys on screen. But if it is, I mean, that'd be pretty impressive if you can get a lot of guys looking like this. Because in that other demo, those were obviously just static meshes and they weren't moving, they weren't animating. So I think maybe this is kind of their proof of concept that you can do an animating one and still get the high quality visual quality.
Right. Yeah, and then I mean, like the detail of some of those assets is pretty insane. Like I didn't know the part about the drone thing, but that kind of makes me wonder, like what does it take to create one of these assets? Like, is that the only way to do it to this level of detail? Is to like use some kind of 3D scanner? Like, is our environment artists like out of a job here? Like, what does that mean? Because like when they kind of zoomed in on it in the editor, like it's just like mind-boggling how detailed that is, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think. Well, I think some of like rocks and stuff. But really, do you think an environment artist loves making rocks? Probably not. That's probably like the shit part of their job.
Yeah, and I guess it's more the arrangement of the pieces and things like that becomes the job. So
so I think they become more like level designers than background artists per se. And I mean, if you get lots of high quality assets and you don't have to make rocks every time, I mean, as a programmer, I wouldn't want to do like shitty like UI stuff forever. And I'm sure like on each game, write the same UI code or whatever. I'm sure environment artists don't want to make rocks all the time. So I think if you can reuse assets, if you can find them on the marketplace and bring them in and just kind of place them around, like there's a lot of tools now that let you make kind of dynamic environments, and they look pretty damn impressive considering like it takes little to no time. So I think it's a good thing. I think if you can, obviously the initial cost is high to do these scans, but I think the quality you get back is quite high. And I think it would easily pay for itself over the course of a game. And I don't know, I just feel like it's probably the way you need to go. And once you kind of get a library and stuff, of assets, I think you're set. And then you can have the environment artist doing game specific things that you actually need, and they can spend more time on it to make it equally as high quality. You know, because I know like a lot of character guys, they'll make assets at insanely high poly levels with ZBrush and everything, and then they just have to bake it down into a shittier version so it can run in the game. And now if you're able to export that super high quality one that they spent all their time, you're actually saving time because you don't have to fix it up to run in the game at a lower resolution. So you might actually end up saving some time. Who knows?
Yeah, I just want to add one caveat before we move on, and it's the same thing we said last time. All of this is under the assumption that you want photorealistic games, right? Like I feel like we are definitely gravitate towards games with unique art styles, non-photorealistic sometimes. Even Last of Us to me has lots of elements that push an artistic direction beyond photorealism. So, I mean, it doesn't really save you potentially as much time if that's what you're making. So it's good for like small teams. I totally agree. And but I don't know if it's a AAA revolution or anything like that.
Well, that was the last thing I was going to mention is like I'm watching this and I'm thinking like, okay, and we probably talked about this before too, but it's like, who is this targeting, right? Because it's like obviously the absolute high-end AAA studios have their own engines. They're pushing the limits of what they can do on the hardware. You know, they don't really need this. I mean, maybe some of them might be interested in these tools and maybe they could benefit from it. But it seems like it's more aiming towards like smaller studios or like mid-range, if any of those exist.
My reply was going to be the target is absolutely everyone else, which is a lot of people.
Right. But then, like you said, like a lot of indie stuff, they're kind of doing their own thing. They're trying to stand out with a different art style. They're not going for the photorealistic thing.
But they can still use Unreal for free. And their visual scripting language is really strong as well. So they're just trying to get to satisfy as many possible use cases through content creation, systems, whatever. So I don't know. I think they're probably going to dominate pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to dominate, but I mean, I think we talked about it before, but I think Unreal still is. It's great for environments. It's good for making really good looking environments, but for prototyping, gameplay, and stuff, it does just take too long to get stuff done. And like I'm working on an Unreal Engine game right now, not 5 but 4, and it takes a long time sometimes to get a game, like a version of the game running. Now I'm doing platform stuff, so it takes me extra long because I have to cook the content. But if you're just running in the editor, it's quick. But still, if you have to write some C++ code that touches a lot of files, you're waiting for a longer compile. Whereas with Unity, it's quick, super quick, C# prototyping. So there is definitely advantages to Unity in the prototyping phase. And I have heard of teams, I think we may have talked about this even before, that will prototype in Unity, get the core game in kind of a fun state, and then they convert it over to Unreal, which is not really that bad of an idea, because if you have prototyped and written a bunch of shitty code and done a lot of shitty level tricks and stuff to get it to work properly, a lot of times you want to just throw that stuff out. So why not throw it all out and then go to a completely new engine and, have a fully new way to think about it. So you could see this kind of hybrid model where studios are using both and getting, obviously that would not benefit Unity from a price standpoint, from getting their, the money from subscriptions or whatever they're charging for. But, it could be good for studios.
All right, moving on. Let's get to what we played, and I failed yet again as a host. I should have said this at the top of the show, probably. Sean was probably like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, what's going on? A new video is up on youtube.com/GameJunk. A Game Junk plays for It Takes Two, where Sean and I played the first chapter. I mean, you can watch that and see how we really feel about the game. Get into the minutia of vacuum tubes, Sean sucking at video games, and you know what? Sean posted it as a big fuck you to the State of Play for Sony. He said, "You know what? The Sony State of Play's dropping? No way. Game Junk's dropping." So if you watched our our whatever you call it, It Takes Two video before Sony State of Play, give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and say how much better you enjoyed that playthrough than Forbidden West. Who cares about that game? It Takes Two. I'm not going to get into the details, but I'm just going to say It Takes Two. We completed chapter 1. This game is amazing. It is on pace, probably with Kaze to be my game of the year at this point. One chapter in.
Every week, this guy's got a new game of the year.
every game that you play is the game of the year.
What was my game of the year last time?
Village. Sorry, RA8 or whatever it's called.
Did I say
Village?
that?
Yeah, you said Resident Evil Village, Game of the Year, tied with Kaze.
Well, they're all
direct quote.
They're all tied.
It's all good. You love video games, bud.
After reflecting a bit, I'm going back to Kaze on RE8. So, but I still loved it. Don't get me wrong. I was selling my top 5 horror game list. I was like, fucking shut up. All right. So do we want to get to Biomutant next? Huck, did you have anything you played, or should we get into...
Well, I could just quickly say that I beat Kaze, since we were just talking about it. Amazing game. I thought it all came together perfectly. In that final boss, you have to use kind of all the tools you learned.
Final boss is a little long and unforgiving, though. Yeah.
Yes, that's probably my one complaint about the game, is that the bosses are hard and you do not get any checkpoints. So you have to play the entire boss and learn it's very Mega Man like, where you have to learn the patterns exactly and not make any mistakes, and it can be frustrating. I know I looked up
untouchable on all the levels, like where you can't get hit, or
did I get that? No.
Oh, really? Embarrassing.
Yeah, I got on a couple. I didn't do it on all. And then I played the first hour or so of Resident Evil 7 on my Xbox Series X. And yeah, scary game. Probably should have been on my top horror list, because it's good. I must say, though, like the move towards photorealism mixed with the first-person perspective is a winner for horror every time. You will... like, horror games will only get better and better from here on out. Like, if you think of where Resident Evil 1 was with the shitty blocky stuff, you had to kind of stretch your imagination to get scared in that, and a lot of it was the audio. Whereas now, the visual aspect mixed with the audio is really, really good, really scary, especially like the facial features on the characters and everything like that. Like, you could really read the characters in the game, and it is scary. It's very scary. It was good. And that's all I played.
I do remember one very good jump scare in RE7, which is you've probably seen it, gotten to already, involving a wall.
I don't know, maybe not. Oh yes, yeah. Actually, it was funny
Frank?
because what was that?
Is the character's name Frank, when Frank busts through the wall or something like that?
Ethan, I think. Oh no, wait, no, the Frank. I don't know that guy's name. But actually, there's the one part right near the beginning, so it's not much of a spoiler. But there's the ladder, and you watch the video about what's down in the ladder, and I'm like, why the hell would I go down this ladder? Yeah. Like, I'm just going out the damn door. Like, I went back to the door and it was locked. I was like, oh, I guess I got to go down this ladder. Like, I'm not going down there. I saw it was down there.
They're really good at that, like setting up where you have to go and you have no choice, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Like, I'm out of here. I'm like, break a window. Who cares? Get the hell out of here.
I think
wimp here. I never have those thoughts. I'm like, I'm going down. Then I'm going to
bull in a china shop. You don't have time to think. You're just in there.
China shop. Well, he pulled it in a Let's Play video last night too. Right, let's get into Biomutant, because I have some thoughts.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to love Biomutant. I liked everything I saw about it. I'd say the marketing videos were very well made to focus on the best things in the game, or to make it look amazing. Upon playing the game, I've been pretty disappointed so far. First off, like, just baffling decisions to me. Like, if I was a creative lead on this game, there's so many things I'm like, why are we doing this? Number one, character creation. You kind of tweak your stats. Like, they have RPG elements where you're kind of customizing your character. And when you do it, it literally like stretches and like scales parts of a standard rigged model for the main character. And unless you keep it right in the middle, it just makes your main character super ugly looking and weird looking. Like, you want the main character of your game to look good. I don't want to see some stretched, compressed, shitty version of the main character. Like, who thought this was a good idea? It just blows my mind. And getting into the game, honestly, I said this to Sean, I feel like, give me a month with this game. That's generous. I think 2 weeks I could do a lot as well. I can make this game 5 review points better. Like, there's so much obvious stuff like feedback with melee attacks. The parry system sucks so far. I don't know if it gets better or you power up to make it easier, but it's like the shitty version of parrying we did in X-Men Destiny fucking 10 years ago. Like, I don't know. The combat is really unsatisfying. The reloading takes forever. Like, to me, it was a bad sign when quick reload was a feature of certain classes. And it's like, you want to make a reload more annoying for the other classes? Because that's what I'm feeling when I'm playing right now. But I still like the world in general. I'm playing it a bit more. I'm not giving up on it yet. But I wanted to love it, and honestly, it feels pretty clunky and dated. And it reminded me of what's that shark game?
Shark game?
Yeah, where you play as a shark and you evolve.
Is it Maneater?
Yeah, I think it's Maneater. It reminded me of that a bit. Like it's trying to be like a really big kind of open world game and just kind of missing the solid core gameplay. This team should have iterated, in my opinion, on the core gameplay much longer. And maybe they're justifying like, oh, we can patch that stuff later. All this stuff. We also could come up with those ideas in 2 weeks, but we will, and we'll do a patch. I don't know. But to me, I would have focused less on making this an RPG and more on making it a good action game. The RPG elements, I don't know who they're for because they're not in depth enough to really care about it, and it just makes the game worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, the loot so far, I mean, I've only played a couple hours. It's all just health packs. Like, I don't think I've picked up anything that's interesting. But I agree. Like, the reviews came out, they were pretty underwhelming to negative almost. And I was like, well, I still want to give this thing a chance. And, you know, people keep talking about how it's this sort of mid-budget game. It's sort of a smaller team, but they're trying to, with kind of AAA aspirations. And so there's some areas where I can see the budget restrictions, and I don't love it, but I can understand it. The big thing there is the narration. Like, they have this narrator, which I've seen games that have had narration throughout that have worked very well. I'm thinking stuff like Bastion, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. What's that? Thomas Was Alone. And it's got like kind of this British, slightly quirky narrator. And it doesn't seem to fit the world, one. And two, the thing that really bugs me is all of the characters in the game, so they're all sort of mutated animals, and they don't speak English. They have like, they kind of make their own language that they're talking
in the subtitle settings. It says gibberish.
Yeah, so it's almost like The Sims or something, where they're kind of talking in the background.
Right, like that's what I felt. It was like a Banjo-Kazooie or something like that. That's how they kind of sounds.
But then, so the narrator translates for you. And it's just really awkward because every time somebody talks, it's like, he says this to you. No, he's saying this. And it's just like over and over again. And after a while, it's like, man, I got to sit through a whole game of this. I don't know if I could do that. So, but, you know, again, I'm sure that was a budgetary decision. We can't afford to do a full voice cast for all these characters. So let's just get one guy and he'll narrate it. But yeah,
it seems to me that like there is goodwill towards this game just because it's a small team and a middle of the road game that people kind of miss, which I agree with. But you know, say your team is very small every time you ship a game. Maybe you'll get the benefit of the doubt. I don't know why that matters sometimes, and like I feel for the team, like if they're a small team, but I just, from what I'm seeing, they didn't scale according to their small team or plan to it. Like. There is a great game potentially here, and it's just scoped way too big.
Yeah. Combat, I agree, is not very satisfying. I mean, you like half the time I can't tell if I'm like actually hitting someone. Just like not great feedback. It's kind of feels like it's going for like the Arkham kind of combat.
Yeah, but
those like flipping over people and jumping back and forth.
It does not.
But it doesn't flow. It doesn't work as well.
There's so many tutorials to start the game and like terminology that I'm like, what is all this stuff? Like, it is overwhelming at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
I'm still going to keep playing it. Like, I'm intrigued by the world. Like, I would compare it to kind of a level of, like, in the ballpark of disappointment and versus excitement, Yooka-Laylee, because it was a game that I thought looked amazing. I love Banjo-Kazooie, and it was a spiritual successor, and I was so excited for it, and it played like absolute shit. Like, the design was horrid. And I still need to do a Let's Play video for the first boss in that game and just show what a disaster it is. But this is better than that. Like, it's not a disaster. It's just not that much fun, and it feels pretty dated.
Yeah, it definitely feels like last gen or even the gen before kind of game, like early open world type game. And it's like one of those things where like first 10 seconds even, like you start moving the camera and it just feels
everywhere.
Like I haven't felt a camera move like this in years, like in a bad way.
Another thing, Sean, like they have a sprint. It barely feels like you're going any faster.
Yeah, I don't think you are going faster.
Where's the post process? like it's so weird to me. Like, these are such obvious things to, even if you're not going faster, make the player feel like they're going faster. Like, just doing a all fours animation doesn't cut it. Like, or just increase the speed. Like, fuck it. Like, you should feel like you're sprinting or doing something. I don't know. It just seems like really obvious stuff to me. I'm assuming there's like, it breaks other things because they've designed the game in a way that there's so many different ways you can put points into your character that it breaks scenarios or something like that. But God, the fixes to this game seem so obvious. I don't know how they're not in here at ship. Yeah,
I mean, like, it sounds a little presumptuous to be like, hey, I could fix this thing, but I hear what you're saying, because like, you know, I have some complaints about the quests I've seen so far. Like, they seem super basic and repetitive. That's like a scale thing. Like, okay, maybe they, you know, that's a problem because of the team size and the budget or whatever. But like player,
we had the same criticisms. Well, I did in the long game of Ghost of Tsushima. Like, that has dated quest stuff too. So
see, and that's like, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people were saying that. I loved Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't do a lot of the side quests, so maybe that's why I didn't feel that way about it. But this, like, the first few quests in this game that I can recall were literally like, find me 3 of these things, and there's like 3 things in the room. You go to them, tap a button a few times and collect them, then you're done. Like, you're kidding me? This is what I'm doing in this game? But, you know, I do like the world, and like, as soon as you kind of get out of the tutorial and you're into that open world, it's cool. I liked all the characters and creatures. So I do want to give it a chance, but I see where the reviews are all coming from on this one.
Yep, completely.
I've just watched some videos about it. The environments look really good. So I'm wondering if...
I like all that stuff.
I wonder if this is sort of like a bunch of sort of like environment artists spun off a team, and then their weak part in their kind of team makeup was designed, maybe?
When I played Yooka-Laylee, I'm like, it was people from Rare. I'm like, this is the artists from Rare, not the designers.
Yeah, one other little point too. I picked it up for PS5. I think you did as well, right, Frank?
I think there's only a PS4 version, but but playing it on PS5 versus Xbox Series X, apparently the PS5 does not do 4K. I don't know why. Like, if it's a performance thing, they couldn't make it happen or something, but the Series X is 4K. So if you're choosing between the two right now, sounds like the Series X is the version to choose. I'm sure there'll be patches for all that stuff incoming. It feels like a work in progress. It feels almost like an early access game, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of polish missing in this.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where, like, big AAA games now, like, the bar is so high and you're just so used to it. And then you play this and you're like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of little things missing that you just take for granted.
But even though I didn't like the game, like, Hellblade was trying to work in this space, and they did it successfully to me. They really limited the size of the game and focused on making what was there extremely polished, which is the way I think you should go, rather than just making it long because it's an RPG. Get rid of the RPG stuff. Like, it's not a key factor to the game. So far that I can see, it feels like we need RPG elements in this game, not like this game needs RPG elements based on our design. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
All right.
So the team is made up of I guess the studio head is the ex art director and game director at Avalanche Studios, worked on Mad Max and Just Cause, and it's published by THQ Nordic, which doesn't necessarily have the best publisher reputation. So
yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Kingdoms of Amalur, which I think was a THQ game. Or
it was but not THQ Nordic.
Okay.
But yeah.
The first one was EA, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. So. Yeah, it was. And then THQ bought the rights, I think, and they did that repackaging of it.
But, I mean, at the time Kingdoms of Amalur came out, it was pretty polished. Like, that was a game that was kind of, people thought was going to be horrible, and it was surprisingly good, I think, anyway, even though I never finished it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
But, yeah, I mean, it's a few years old now. So I have one other thing to mention, which is just Resident Evil Village, which I finished. Now, I don't know if we're planning to do a full Game Junk reviews of this at some point, so I won't maybe say too much, but I didn't like it quite as much as Frank did, mainly because the final level, or like the Heisenberg...
It's all action, right?
Yeah, but the Heisenberg stronghold, like the factory, I wasn't into that level for whatever reason. Like, it didn't jive with the rest of the game. Like, it just kind of pulled me out of, like, I get kind of each section was almost exploring a different subgenre of horror a little bit. Yeah. But that one didn't quite fit for me. And
like, it was kind of this fusion of like new, like, is this even a thing? Like, it's not steampunk, but kind of techno punk horror. And I thought, if anything, maybe they could have, there's a bit of this element, but there's like vampires, there's zombies, there's like lagoonish creature type stuff in one section, like a take on that. I wish that would have leaned into a Frankenstein element a bit more. And then the one house was kind of ghost and gothic. I think if they could have tied in like a Frankenstein element into that, or reinforced that a bit and kind of hit all these classic horror things, it really would have like had a clear horror homage in each area. And that one did feel a little loose. It didn't feel like that connected to classic horror.
Yeah. So I don't know. It kind of felt like it was just kept going on, and I wasn't that engaged with it, but I thought it ended well. I mean, story-wise, I mean, there's some tie-in stuff to the franchise that's just like, okay. It doesn't really mean anything to me, but
the reason why I like it probably the most out of all of them, I just think it's got really strong bosses. Like, a lot of bosses, and they're visually impressive and very different.
Yeah, I did enjoy the bosses. And I mean, the combat mechanics overall are solid. Like, it feels like a game to me. Like, I haven't finished 7 yet, and I still hope to, but I can see myself replaying this one maybe, where, just it feels like a fun game that, Resident Evil 4, I think, is known for that, where it's just a game people will play over and over again because it's just a solid kind of action game. I don't see myself necessarily playing Resident Evil 7 over and over again. It's more about that experience, and then I'm done with it. But
yeah, I think that's a fair point. All right, so I think that's it.
I think so.
Wrapping it up. Thanks for listening. Please check us out on youtube.com/GameJunk if you haven't already. Getting close to monetization, right, Huck? What do we need here? What?
Well, we need a lot more subscribers.
Yeah, we need like 500 more subscribers.
You hate us? Subscribe anyway. Just let us make those pennies per week. We'll take it. If you're a Film Junk fan listening to this, or you hate listening to it, give us a fraction of a penny, please. Anyway,
Frank's got a gaming habit. He needs to buy that PC.
YouTube.com/GameJunk. Check out Huck on Twitter at MyAngryCommute and Equilibrium Sis, and Sean at Film Junk. Hopefully there's some news for next week. I don't think there's any big releases. The week after that, I think.
There might be some like E3 leak stuff.
Oh yeah, E3's coming up soon. So if we have nothing, we still need to do our top 5 most anticipated for E3 potentially. So if nothing else major happens, you'll be getting that filler content. So get ready. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.